Welcome to the Year of the Movie podcast, the podcast where we talk about movies from the year of the movie 2023. We're back for another week, and Sean is also back.
Mm-hmm.
This is probably the last one he's back for.
Yep, this is the last time you'll hear of me.
Ever.
For a while. And since it's your last one for a while, go ahead and do us the honors of telling us why we started this podcast.
I don't know why are we doing this, No, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done that. This is serious. I'm sorry. Welcome to Year of the Movie 2023. It was certainly a wacky year for movies. You got your Oppenheimers. You got your Barbies. That's the big news. But you also got your crazy things like 65.
Mm-hmm.
Adam Driver was in it. There were dinosaurs. It was the past and yet the future. Brilliant stuff. Oscar-winning stuff and just sort of fun, quirky, wacky things. And so that was sort of the reason that 2023 spoke to the souls of these two hosts here as to why we got to cover all of these 2023 movies.
Yep. That was a really good combo of explaining and also trying to get a cord out from under your chair.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I do.
Yeah, every 2023 movie, even if that means we have to talk about today's movie, The Retirement Plan.
Yeah. If you don't know, the synopsis is when Ashley and her young daughter Sarah get caught up in a criminal enterprise that puts their lives at risk, she turns to estranged father Matt, currently living the life of a retired beach bum in the Cayman Islands. What were your first impressions when you heard about this movie? / did you hear about this movie?
I mean, I think I probably saw it on Hulu.
Yeah.
It's all Nicolas Cage, and that I said 2023, and my first impressions, I think, were probably just, cool.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Let's add it to the list.
Yeah. What were your first impressions?
Probably the same. And then I was like, wow, what a busy man. Because this will not be the only 2023 Nicolas Cage movie that we'll talk about.
I think it's the second one that we've talked about. Renfield?
Yes, Renfield. There's this one, and then there's The Old Way.
Yeah.
We'll have to do that at least.
Yep.
We'll see what else. He will say yes to things, and I'm cool with that. Sean, did you hear about this movie?
I actually did hear about this one,
okay.
through mainstream commercials even, I think.
Whoa.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, Nick Cage is at it again, doing that Nick Cage thing that he does, but also shooting people.
Do you remember what the commercials were, or where you saw them?
I don't fully know. I mean, it could have just been on TV or like maybe a YouTube thing or something.
Mm-hmm.
But I kind of had a sense of that he's back at it one more time to shoot some people, even though he's retired.
Yeah.
That kind of game.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But before we fully dive into this podcast,
Mm-hmm.
if you like it,
Oh yeah.
consider supporting us on Patreon, reviewing and rating on wherever you listen to a podcast, and following us on Instagram.
All those things are very helpful, and we appreciate them. Yeah, we normally also talk about the trailer for the movie. Like with the other goofy action movies that we've talked about recently.
There's a theme right now.
Our theme is what can we mentally sit through and take somewhat seriously at the end of the day. And that's what these are. Hey, there's an audience for them. But like those, or a lot of the movies that we've covered recently, the trailer is pretty much the exact same as what the plot breakdown is going to be. So I just didn't really want to repeat myself. The trailer is short. It's like 1:30, which I was like, yay. Love that. The plot breakdown is essentially the exact same as like what the plot sets up, but it doesn't specify that Matt has like a bad relationship with his daughter. It just says like he hasn't seen her in a long time. And then her daughter shows up randomly at his house, and he's like, what's going on? But then it includes the lines of, like, oh, Ashley's in trouble again? Like, what did she do this time? Implying that, like, Ashley is the bad one of this family relationship when that's not quite true. It's also not a bad trailer as far as the quality of the rest of this movie goes. I was pleasantly surprised the one time I watched through it.
So they had good marketing, I guess.
Yeah, they had a good editor. So the cast of this movie?
Yeah, we got Nicolas Cage as Matt or Tim?
Jim.
Jim. Yeah.
Okay. Ashley Greene as Ashley. Talia Campbell as Sarah. Ron Perlman as Bobo.
Mm-hmm.
Jackie Earle Haley as Donnie. Ernie Hudson as Joseph. Grace Byers as Hector. Lynn Whitfield as Drisdale. Joel David Moore as Fitzsimmons. Jordan Johnson Hines as Jimmy. Rick Fox as Christopher. Obviously, Nick Cage is like the biggest person, like name wise.
And Ron Perlman, I would say.
Ron Perlman is also quite.
Yeah.
But then Jackie Earle Haley is the guy who played Rorschach in the Zack Snyder Watchmen movie, and he's also in Breaking Away.
Yeah.
And many other things.
Yeah.
Like it's just he's a face that you recognize. And then Ernie Hudson obviously is a Ghostbuster.
Yeah.
Like he's.
Nicolas Cage has an Oscar. Ron Perlman, I think, has an Oscar, or he was nominated. I forget. But yeah, Jackie Earle Haley was also nominated for Lincoln, I think.
Oh yeah.
And Lynn Whitfield has an Emmy. Rick Fox is a former NBA player who is now an actor. So it's like, what a wild cast for the quality of this movie. But the thing you have to remember is this does take place and shot on location in the Cayman Islands.
Yeah. And that's gotta be why people said yes. Because, like, I don't know if you wrote it, but, like,
yeah.
Ron Perlman and Nicolas Cage kind of just wanted to hang out because they're friends.
Yeah.
Like, that's why Nick Cage agreed to the movie.
Mm-hmm. I have more info on why Ron Perlman agreed to this movie.
Okay. I'm fascinated to know why people agreed to this movie.
There's not a lot of information about this movie specifically, but because it flew under everyone's radar, understandably. But there was an interesting thing of like the business side of this movie and the other deals that this production company had. We'll get there in a bit. I just took the paragraph that's from Wikipedia from the plot breakdown because it's pretty straightforward, and I feel like it's comprehensive enough that we can point out stuff that stuck out to us. So, from wikipedia.com. Yeah. Ashley is acting as a getaway driver for her husband and his friend. Her husband is Jimmy. Following her husband's capture, Ashley and her young daughter, Sarah, must seek out Ashley's estranged widowed father, Matt, for help. Unable to buy a ticket for both of them, Ashley sends Sarah alone to her grandfather. Sarah finds Matt, who is living the life of a retired beach bum in the Cayman Islands. Soon, Ashley is captured, and the crime boss, Donnie, realizes that the evidence he is after is in the Cayman Islands. His lieutenant, Bobo, and the general, he doesn't come up again, they are sent to track them down and retrieve the hard drive. Things do not entirely work out as expected. That's my favorite sentence from this. Matt attacks and kills General, and Bobo is the sole survivor. He gets away with Sarah and Matt's truck. Bobo informs Donnie about the situation, and Donnie advises him to lay low until he can get there. The more time Ashley spends with Matt, she realizes he has a secret past she knew nothing about. Matt reaches out to Drisdale, his handler, to get more information about Donnie and his crew. After killing some more of Donnie's men, Matt reunites with his friend Joseph and learns that Donnie works for a woman called Hector. Donnie and his men attack Matt, Joseph, and Ashley, but Matt takes out the men. Sarah manages to escape Bobo, who is killed by Ashley, but then Ashley and Sarah are captured by Donnie, who take them to Hector's compound. Matt attacks Hector's compound and kills everybody, except Donnie and Hector. Donnie manages to capture Matt and shoots Hector, but then is shot by Fitzsimmons, who is then shot by Drisdale, who figured out that Fitzsimmons was a mole and killed Hector to cover his tracks. Drisdale's boss arrives and takes the drive, explaining it will be used to further his political career. It's a lot and also nothing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, where do we want to start with this?
Bobo is maybe one of the greatest characters in
cinema history. Yeah.
And I stand by that fact.
Yeah. Let's start with number one. His name is Bobo.
His name is Bobo.
They don't explain why.
He's an orphan.
Yep.
His first scene, he's just kind of slumped in a chair. And he just spills some peanuts on the ground.
He's like, "Ah, shoot, sorry."
And then Donnie goes, "Bobo, what are you doing?"
And he's just like, "Ah."
Yeah.
And, this is all improved by being played by Ron Perlman.
Yeah. Yeah.
and Bobo likes literature, and
Bobo is self-taught.
yeah,
Yeah.
and like really well self-taught.
He has a decent amount of backstory that he explains to Sarah, because he kidnaps her at one point, and then they like get to know each other.
Yeah,
And he says like, because she's reading Othello, and he quotes it to her, and she's like, "Why do you know that?" And he's like, "Wow, I thought your generation was the one who didn't judge people based off of appearances." And she's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry."
he was like, "Ah, I'm just kidding."
Yeah. And he explains that he's an orphan. He has the same story as Oliver Twist. He was taken in by a nice man who like taught him everything he knows, and then something he became a crime guy.
Yeah,
But it's a decent amount of backstory for
yeah, and like he's
a
very
guy named Bobo.
he's very aware that he is the bad guy, but
Yeah.
it's just like this is just what life is.
He tells Sarah, he never threatens her. Like the stuff that he says is like, "Hey, just so you know, if the police catch us, your mom dies." Just
Yeah.
putting that out on the table.
Yeah.
Like, but he's not saying it in a threatening way. She's in a bad situation for a 12-year-old, but still, he says like, "Listen, no matter what side of the fence you're on, like you want your work to be good, right?" And she's like, "Yeah, that makes sense." Like he knows he's a bad guy, but he
Yeah.
wants the quality of his work to be good.
I do truly believe that this movie killing Bobo
It was the biggest mistake.
was the
Yeah.
biggest mistake.
Yeah, yeah,
'Cause of a movie that has lots of mistakes, in
Yes.
my opinion. That was the biggest one because it was like the most interesting character,
mm-hmm.
and they're just like, we're gonna shoot him with a harpoon, and,
he-
like
yeah.
the way he dies is, I don't know, not funny. It's somewhat poetic, I
It's
guess.
so close to being really good,
Yeah,
but I think because we talked about this a little bit last night, I think that they picked the wrong way to do it.
yeah,
So
and way too early.
way too early. But so as he dies, so Sarah was trapped in a section of the boat that was filling up with water. Or no,
Ashley.
was trapped in a section of the boat that was filling up with water. Sarah saves her. She pops open like the hatch, and then Ashley has a harpoon gun. She sees Bobo and she shoots him. And then Bobo looks at Sarah and he goes, "Iago," and then falls over the side of the boat because they had a whole thing about like, how could Othello not know that like the person closest to him was a traitor, or like
Yeah.
they talked about that. I don't think we were talking about it last night when you were upstairs, and we were like, who was Iago in that situation? Because like that the whole point of that was that the people closest to you are the ones that could betray you,
Yeah,
and I guess Ashley is the closest to Sarah, but she didn't betray Sarah because Bobo is again a bad man. Like,
yeah.
so
But she killed
she did.
Sarah's new friend.
New best friend Bobo.
I don't know. I saw it in the moment, and I was like, I thought he was pointing at Sarah, like Sarah was the Iago, and
Yeah.
Ron Perlman was Othello.
Yeah.
And
Right.
so he was like, "You betrayed me."
You betrayed me after
But I
I
loved you.
almost killed you
Yeah,
in the woods because my boss told me to,
Yeah.
and then I changed my mind. So I think the way that he should have died was he lives through that whole scene and then escapes with Donnie, and then when everything is happening at Hector's house later on, then he betrays Donnie, then
yes.
also dies, and then he's Iago at that point of like betraying Donnie.
Yeah, like that, I feel like something along those lines would have been better. I feel like what they were maybe trying to go for is that, like, Bobo wasn't trying to become good, and if he sacrifices himself, it sort of portrays him as he's now good. And I
Mhm.
don't think they wanted Bobo to be good. I think they wanted him to be a likable bad character,
Mm-hmm.
but it still wasn't a satisfying enough death
Yeah.
for the most interesting character in the movie full of not interesting characters.
It's not satisfying because that whole the segment of the movie where you learn the most about him, then the pairings are Bobo and Sarah. So hitman dude with little girl that he has captured who find common ground, and then Matt and his daughter Ashley who are like on uncommon ground because Ashley is learning that her dad is an assassin and like her entire perception of him is a lie. So like because you have those parallels, it's really almost interesting. and then this movie doesn't do anything with it and they just kill off Bobo instead.
I feel like this movie is close to being good,
Yeah.
but they didn't commit or just like think about it enough.
Yeah.
It was just like, oh, that's neat. Let's just shoot it.
Yeah. There are some loose ends with this movie. What's his name? Joseph, or Ernie Hudson's character. He gets shot twice during the whole his boat is sinking thing.
Yeah, so he gets shot once where it's like, okay, getting shot right now, that makes sense. It's somewhat during a shootout.
It's kind of in his shoulder, so he's like,
yeah.
It's not great, but
the other time he gets shot is they're helping Ernie Hudson get away from the shootout, and then Donnie comes over and just shoots him in the gut.
Yeah.
Like Ernie Hudson is between them. His hands like are over their shoulders, and like he's limping, and like they're just like, okay, here we go, Ernie Hudson.
Let's get
and then,
you out
like,
of here.
They turn a corner, it's bam in the gut, and he's just like,
he goes down.
It's not like he's even trying to kill anyone. He just
No.
walks up, one shot, and he's
Yeah.
like, let's go.
Yeah. So he gets shot, and then you see Nicolas Cage take him to the hospital, and then he gets him there and doesn't really give them any information, and then he leaves, calls his handler, is able to go back to Miami, because this movie is in the Cayman Islands and Miami.
and DC.
And DC. We'll come back to that in a second. And then that's it. You just follow Nicolas Cage for the rest of the movie. You don't find out, hey, did Ernie Hudson live? We don't know.
Same with Jimmy,
the husband.
the husband/dad at the very beginning of the film.
So this plot breakdown didn't fully explain it, but so Jimmy works for Donnie as his driver. So he's not involved in like the crime stuff, but he hears a lot of information. And he heard that there is this drive. We never learn what's on the drive. But he hears that there is a hard drive that has sensitive information that Donnie can use to no longer work for Hector and work for himself. Jimmy decides to take that drive because once you start working for Donnie, then you can't really ever stop, and he wants to get out of the association with crime and have a better life for his family. So he steals the drive. Ashley is his getaway driver. Things go wrong immediately, and then the rest of the movie happens. But yeah, you see Jimmy beat up a couple of times before Ashley is taken to the Cayman Islands with Bobo and the general. Never see Jimmy again. I don't know if he knows if like he lives or anything. But no one really seems to want to follow up with that. So, R.I.P. Jimmy.
Or see you later, Jimmy.
Yeah. One of the goofy elements of this movie is the title cards that tell you what location you're at.
So just all of the
All of the graphics.
any of the graphics or times that text comes up in the movie is very goofy.
It's very placeholder.
Yeah, it's very placeholder, just like this will work for now. The title card itself is just black with white font of the retirement plan.
Yeah.
Like it looks more like an indie comedy.
Yeah.
Like
the poster for this movie is pretty good in terms of design, just in the fact that like they thought of things, and there's like it's still black text on white, but then there's lines of like color with all of the character profiles. Or that's one of the poster versions that's on here. So like it's still more visually interesting, and like font does matter sometimes.
The first one that I feel like I noticed at least was when they're going through like the credits on screen during the opening scene, and it's Nicolas Cage, and like it comes up, but all of the letters start backwards, and then they rotate around, and
Yeah.
it just looks like it's a pre-made
It-
text thing.
Yeah.
And there's other ones that like they come on screen, but they come together, and it was just like, what is
It
happening?
wasn't quite iMovie, but it was close.
Yeah, it was a step above iMovie.
Yeah.
What were you gonna say?
Oh yeah, and then one of them they open a trunk or something, and the text slides to the right like it's coming out of the trunk.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, because like the car moves forward,
Yeah.
Hmm.
and then it's like Ernie Hudson, and that's like
The order of the announcement of the cast for this too was
Yeah.
wild because, like, of course you start with Nicolas Cage, but then I don't think Ron Perlman was immediately next. I think it
No.
was Ashley Greene, and then yeah, Ernie Hudson is somewhere in the middle of that. Like,
Yeah.
I think we've mentioned before on a different episode. Like, normally you have like a and featuring,
Yep.
or like they just had and introducing Talia Campbell at the end because this is
yeah.
like one of her first projects.
Unfortunately, like with Ernie Hudson, like I don't, because like he did an interview recently where he's like, I'm still a working actor,
He is,
like in the sense of like he has to keep acting,
yeah.
because he just doesn't get paid enough.
I get like financially, and that sucks because he shouldn't have to do that
Yeah.
because of his career. But like, I get financially, he is a working actor. In terms of credits,
He should still at least get a
he's-
and Ernie Hudson.
he's a draw. Like,
yeah.
he's a good name to get. So it was just a weird placement.
Yeah. And
Um,
then when it introduces characters, not their actors,
So funny.
every time it's introducing a character, it like zooms in, freeze frames, turns to like a color over hue,
Yeah.
and a whip sound with the character name on screen.
Yeah.
So it's like whoosh, Ashley.
Yeah. And that happened within the first like 30 seconds of the movie, and we were like, "Oh, this is going to be really good."
Yeah.
Were you gonna? Well, it went all the way to an hour
Hour
and
and
3
3
minutes
Yeah.
into the movie.
Yeah, we got
Yeah.
our final character introduced. This movie's an hour 40 or something.
Yeah.
And it was an hour and 3 minutes, and it said,
Christopher.
yeah.
That's yeah, Christopher is the guy that the Drisdale woman is working for to further his political career and whatever. Yeah.
Like that kind of thing, like usually is in the first 5 minutes of a heist film or
Yeah.
something where it's like, here are the key players of the heist.
Yeah.
But then it's like this one was like, oh, we have a new character. I wish that it was everybody. I wish it was like hotel clerk,
Yeah.
cashier.
The general. Yeah.
Sofa guy.
Yeah.
Sofa guy is an extra that Sean and I noticed who was sitting in Donnie's office who just is having a weird day.
Sometimes he'd just space out.
Yeah.
And he's just like staring.
But then sometimes Donnie would be monologuing and yelling, and he'd just be sitting on the couch making a goofy face of just like, I don't know about this. Like, but he was just right on the edge that it was just enough to be perfectly distracting. He was great. They have another graphic thing is they have the locations that come up to tell you where you are in the movie. They have a location graphic for Miami like at least 4 times.
Every time it changes. It's because like
Miami.
typically you get it once and
Yeah.
then you go back. You're like, okay, but this really is like Miami, DC, Cayman Islands, DC, Cayman Islands, Miami, hotel that's out of the way.
An out of the way hotel in the Cayman Islands.
Yeah.
Miami. Yeah. The only other thing that stuck out to me that I wrote down was the fight choreography in this movie really isn't that impressive. It's for being an action movie, it's
It's fine.
very little action.
Yeah.
Which like I don't need Nicolas Cage to do absolutely everything, but
They also repeated a lot of the same type of like
yeah.
a lot of like camera following head as it gets slammed down onto a table.
Right.
There was one shot that was like impressive.
Weirdly good, yeah.
Ashley pushes a dude off of a balcony, and the camera follows the dude all the way down until like he breaks his neck
Yeah.
onto the ground, and that we were just like,
But it's like attached to him. Like it's not just like looking up from the ground and following him all the way down.
oh, it's like at his level.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we were just like, where did that come from?
Yeah,
'Cause
why-
it was just like,
Why'd you only use it the once? Yeah. I think one of my favorite goofy things in this is when they're at the out of the way hotel in the Cayman Islands, then Nicolas Cage and Ashley are trying to get out the window to get away from the bad guys. And he's like, oh, here's this art piece on the wall. And it's made out of rope. It's basically just like a coil of rope. And it's fully attached like on its side. It's not like a pile. It's like a flat disc of rope. So he just fully takes it off and it falls away completely. It's like, wow, that was barely holding on there in the first place. And now he has this perfect piece of rope to do the rest of the things. They make a guy fall off the balcony. They land on a balcony below them and they need to get into the room. And like an old man in there opens the door for them and he's like, how's the weather out there? And then Nicolas Cage in his voice says like, you're a gentleman and a scholar, sir. And then they leave.
When they meet Ernie Hudson's character, Ernie Hudson is like, Ashley, I haven't seen you since you were 8 years old. How have you been? And then Nick Cage is like, people have tried to kill us today twice. And then Ernie Hudson goes, Ashley, you're always getting into trouble. Or something.
Yeah, little Ashley, always getting into trouble.
Yeah, it's Ernie Hudson. Like, little Ashley, always getting into trouble. It's just like, Ernie, people have been trying to murder them. Like,
that's Ashley for you.
Classic Ashley.
Yeah.
Like, I'd like to think he just says that to anything. Like, she accidentally, like, scratches the car. Like, little Ashley, always getting into trouble. She goes and kills 5 people. Little Ashley, always getting into trouble.
She visits him in the hospital because he did survive this movie. Little Ashley. Finally out of trouble. Anything else that we want to talk about with this silly movie?
Donnie. I felt like was giving Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think he's actually from Boston. Maybe he is.
I don't know.
He doesn't normally have a thick Boston accent like he did in this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's got like the typical mobster voice, I feel like is what he's going for. And he's just yeah, he was pretty good. Like acting wise, I was like, yeah, I'm fine with his performance in this. I saw one review that was talking about like some people, like it said it had positive things to say about Nicolas Cage, because it said like he seems to be in on the joke and knowing that he's doing this for 1, money, 2, he gets to hang out with his bud in the Cayman Islands.
Yeah.
Like, so he's cool with everything and like that comes across in his performance. And then everyone else is like playing it, they're like trying to be dramatic because their role is dramatic, but like basically this movie could have been more fun if everyone was consistent with like knowing the tone of the movie that they were in across the board.
The character Hector, whatever. But
she wasn't super interesting, unfortunately.
There's a part where unrelated to the movie, she invites her accountant to breakfast and is like, hey, you're my accountant, right? And the accountant is like,
yes.
And Hector is like, so do you know where my $16,437.17 is? And the accountant just breaks down crying.
Yeah.
And then Hector's like, come with me.
Mm-hmm.
And we get like 3 different times of Hector being like, come with me, at different spots at like her manor.
Yeah.
And the accountant is like, in 3 different spots, and it's just like, you've already moved this far.
Yeah.
You just gotta keep going. And then they walk over to a telescope, and Hector is like, take a look.
Mm-hmm.
And the accountant looks, and it's her husband with chains on a boat in the middle of the ocean.
And they're gonna kill him.
Yeah, and she just starts crying.
Yeah.
And then Hector's like, you've got 2 daughters too, right? And the accountant is like, yes. And she's like, and you love them? And the accountant says, yes. And then Hector says, then they don't need a father.
And kill the father.
And they kill the father, and then the accountant just goes, no!
It's a very dramatic, understandable, you just watch your husband die, but a very dramatic scream.
Yeah, and it was just like, why? Like, okay, Hector's bad.
Mm-hmm.
We already knew that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But also Hector said that they'll pack a doggy bag of fruit to take home for the kids.
Yeah.
So there's some consideration there.
Yeah.
Not a total monster.
No.
Just, don't steal $16,000 from me.
Oh, I thought of another weird graphic choice that was funny. So Fitzsimmons, which you haven't really talked about.
Yeah.
He works for the FBI, CIA, whichever one it is. He works for Drysdale. He is a mole for Hector. But the first time that we see him, not when we get his Whiplash character intro scene, but the first time we see him, he is in the shadows watching, I think he's watching Jimmy give Ashley the flash drive, or like he knows that the drive is in the wrong hands. So he sends a text that comes up on screen that says, "We've got a problem." Fine. Like, action movie thing. He uses a sad face emoji.
Yeah, like, sad, like, I'm sorry.
Like, deflated, like, we've got a problem. The fact that he used an emoji
Yeah.
is so funny.
A weird
Yeah.
choice, for sure.
Yeah. Anything else?
Not that I can...
Maybe the very ending, like there's a couple spots at the end
Oh,
where it's
yeah.
like, whenever Nicolas Cage is captured with his daughter and his granddaughter, they're sort of huddled there.
Yeah.
And then they come in and,
There's a lot of shootings.
Yeah, there's a lot of shootings. The CIA comes in and shoots, was it Hector and Donnie?
Donnie shoots Hector first.
Donnie shoots Hector.
And then
And
then Drysdale then Fitzsimmons shoots Donnie, and then it's him and Drysdale that walk in, and then Drysdale shoots Fitzsimmons,
Yeah.
and then
It's-
Christopher walks in.
it's very much that SNL skit. What you say?
Yeah. It's like, also at that point we knew that Drysdale was also working with someone, so
Yeah.
it wasn't clear if she was like an actual good guy or not. And this guy uses the stuff, whatever's on the drive, to further his political career, which I'm like,
Governor of Florida.
yeah, I'm like, I don't know if he's a good guy either,
Yeah. Right.
depending on what's on the drive. But yeah, when she kills Fitzsimmons, and it's like, okay, so is everyone a bad guy? Does Nicolas Cage have to kill more people?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I guess like he takes a walk with Christopher to a dock, and Christopher is like, it's good to know that we're on the good side, and Nicolas Cage just doesn't say anything. And then he's like, we can get Ashley and Sarah out of here, but not you.
Which I don't fully understand.
I don't get why. But the last shot is Matt like riding away on Hector's boat into the distance, and then the movie ends. So
Yeah.
there's no like,
I feel like they're trying to leave it be like, oh, we can do a sequel. But there's no way Nick Cage is going to want to do this without Ron Perlman.
yeah, and like there's no resolution of like, how is the family now, because that was supposed to be the main point of tension with their relationship. And like, is he cool? Is he going back? He's going back to the Cayman Islands because Christopher says like Cayman Islands are 300 miles away in that direction or something.
Free boat.
Yeah.
Got 4 350 horsepower engines on the back.
Yeah, there's a nice shot on the engines of that boat. Yep.
Yeah.
Good now?
I think so. I think we're good to go to production facts.
Great. So this movie was released September 15th, 2023, with a digital release later that month, I think. I'm not sure of a specific date, but this did have a theatrical release. It has an hour and 43-minute runtime, and it's rated R. It's got a 60% on Rotten Tomatoes with a 42% audience score, 2 stars from The Guardian, and then it's got a 4.8 out of 10 from Metacritic users. There aren't enough critic reviews to get like an official Metacritic out of 100 score. Apparently you need 4. So there haven't been that many. The audience reviews on Rotten Tomatoes mostly have some variation of "I love Nicolas Cage." The Guardian review, there's a quote from that says, "The funny thing is, in his performance as a former government hitman, Cage dials it down nicely, keeping his freaky at a gentle 6 out of 10. The film cruises along on his charm. It's otherwise a totally disposable but mostly entertaining action comedy drama with a really stupid plot and a few good laughs."
Yeah.
That's basically how I felt about it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Was it a successful movie?
So They had a budget of less than $20 million. I don't know a specific figure. Box office, I know a specific figure. It earned $1,626,950. Around 19,000 of that is from international releases. It made $745,000 from 1,175 theaters in its opening weekend, which is considered the worst total ever for a Nicolas Cage wide release. That doesn't feel fair because I didn't hear anything about this movie.
Yeah.
It doesn't, like, it's a weird stat to put on Nicolas Cage's career as a whole. To be like, this is the worst one of
Yeah,
his...
I mean, the quality of this movie's direct to DVD movie.
Yeah.
Like, it's
not the fault of Nicolas Cage's career.
yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know, like, the financial side in terms of streaming. I really haven't heard anything about how this movie is doing on streaming either, so I'm gonna say it's not a great success. Production timeline, couldn't really find one. It was shot in 2021. That's all I know. And apparently another one of the draws was that the Cayman Islands really had low COVID issues.
Mhm.
So people were just like, beautiful location, don't have to worry about the giant global disease,
Yeah.
and I get paid, I'll do this movie. Yeah, it's so there is listed as one award on its IMDb.
Yeah, I saw that.
This is for the best body of work, which is awarded to Nicolas Cage by the San Diego Film Critics Society. It doesn't specify that it's in association with the retirement plan.
Yeah.
I think it's just Nicolas Cage was in this movie, and the retirement plan IMDb person was like, yoink, let's put whatever we can on here.
This is a piece of the body.
Yeah, we were here too.
It might be the toe, but it's a piece.
We were the worst part of
Worst
this.
piece of the body.
Yeah.
It's the appendix.
One of the taglines for this movie is, who does he have to kill to get some peace and quiet? Another one that I saw was, retirement is a real killer.
All right.
Yeah,
Sure.
they're all right. So this is the stuff that was kind of interesting to me. So this is the third film produced by William G. Santor, who's the CEO of Productivity Media, and Nicholas Tabarrok, who is the president of Darius Films. This is part of their ongoing production deal with the Cayman Islands government. So I think it's specifically one of their companies, I think it's Production Media, or Productivity Media, has a deal with the Cayman Islands, and then Productivity Media and Darius Films have teamed up together for 3 movies. This is the 3rd movie of that deal. So I don't know if Productivity is gonna keep making movies in the Cayman Islands. Why would you stop if you've got that going on?
Yeah.
So Santor talked about the cast. He said the global reach and legendary appeal of Nicholas, Ashley, Jackie, Joel, Grace, Ernie, Rick, and Lynn, as well as gifted newcomer Talia, is spot on for this exciting action movie. I am proud to say that we have managed to have a Ghost Rider, a Hellboy, and a Rorschach in the same film together, with a Ghostbuster to keep the Ghost Rider in check. You can't get better than that! 3 exclamation marks. So he is happy with the way this is going.
Ron was not included in that list of names.
He wasn't, which is rude.
The way you were reading that, I was like, could you read it again real quick?
Yeah. The global reach and legendary appeal of Nicholas, Ashley, Jackie, Joel, Grace, Ernie, Rick, and Lynn, as well as the gifted newcomer Talia, is a spot on for this exciting action movie.
Like all those names in a row, I thought you were going to say Nicholas Ashley Cage, and I was like, he's got a really long middle name.
That's his government name.
I was like, I did not know that.
The other films that they have made with this deal that they've worked out were Blue Iguana, which is a dark comedy starring Joel David Moore, Bob Saget, and Iggy Pop, among others. So Joel has been around in their other projects. And the other one is The Baker, which stars Ron Perlman as a baker who protects his granddaughter from gangsters, which is a preview. That was the thing that I do remember us watching a trailer for. I kind of feel like because he did that movie that they were like, well, we can't have another movie where it's Ron Perlman bonding with a young girl trying to protect her from gangsters when that's the point of The Baker. So I wonder if that's why there were some missteps with Bobo's character, because they just didn't know what else to do with him besides the
Right.
thing that they had already done.
You said Blue Iguana
Blue Iguana.
with Bob Saget?
That's what it said in this Deadline article from 2021.
Blue Iguana was a 2018 film
Okay.
with Sam Rockwell and Ben Schwartz.
Well, then Deadline might be wrong.
Could there
Yeah,
be
I
two?
have.
I mean, there's nothing coming up outside of there's a Dancing at the Blue Iguana from 2000.
The first film, Blue Iguana, is currently in post-production. The dark comedy stars Joel David Moore, Bob Saget, Jason Jones, Carly Chaikin, Marilyn Lynn,
So it's not out yet.
Iggy Pop. Well, this is from 2021, so I don't know. Maybe it's not out yet, and maybe it's just got a longer post-production than...
Yeah.
So I guess there may or may not be another Bob Saget project that will come out.
That's weird.
Yeah. Yeah. This was written and directed by Tim Brown, who has several previous credits with Productivity Media, so it seems like they've got their certain cast and crew that they go back to, which is fair. We do the same thing. And then, yeah, Nicolas Cage and Ron Perlman, they became friends while filming 2011's Season of the Witch, and then Cage accepted the role in part so that they could hang out. I think Ron Perlman accepted the role for this one because he was doing The Baker, and then was like, well, I'm already here. So that's all I got if we want to get to our ratings.
Yeah.
Are you looking at Blue Iguana
I
still?
was trying to find it. I can't find it. Yeah, a rating system. We've got a rating system out of 4 with 5 options. 0 out of 4 is, oh no, what have you done? 1 out of 4 is it was a movie. 2 is well made. 3 is enjoyable and kind of technically good. 4 is Oscar worthy. I gave it a 1 out of 4. Despite all of the fun parts, they weren't really supposed to be. I don't know. The parts that I found fun
Mm-hmm.
weren't intentionally fun, I don't think.
No.
Outside of maybe Bobo. Nick Cage did a fine job,
Mm-hmm.
but the movie was kind of a drag outside of the parts to make fun of and Bobo.
I gave it a 2 because I did enjoy it. And I know on our scale, enjoyment isn't a factor until 3. But 3 is far too high for this movie.
Yeah.
So I gave it a 2. It's not well made, but it's fun. It is the kind of movie that is so bad it's good. In some aspects, especially like performances and line deliveries and stuff like that. So I gave it a 2. It's probably too high, but I liked it more than just the base statement of it was a movie.
Yeah.
Do you have a rating?
It's tough because I mean, if we're going purely on the quality of the filmmaking, like the 1 is probably accurate.
Yeah.
But I mean, I would like to give it a 2 as well for enjoyment factor.
Sure.
You can.
Ron Perlman gets one of those stars with Sarah,
Mhm.
and then Nicolas Cage gets the other one, and then together they come together, and that's 2 stars.
Yeah.
So an overall rating of 1.6.
That feels accurate. Yeah.
All right. Well, we talk about other movies that we've watched recently. We haven't actually watched. I think we're all caught up for movies that we watched.
No, we haven't talked about Arrival.
Did we not?
No.
Oh, I thought we
you,
did.
You briefly mentioned it, but we didn't actually like go through it. But we watched Arrival.
I really thought we talked about it.
I don't think so.
But we watched Arrival. If we talked about it, I guess let us know.
No, you mentioned it when because we talked about Escape from New York instead. In terms of like actually going through a movie that we discussed.
Yeah, one time we did Aliens versus Cowboys and Argyle. So
Mhm.
if we didn't get enough Harrison Ford,
We also
Yeah.
did John Carter.
Yes.
yeah, we did John Carter.
Mhm.
I wasn't here for Arrival if it was talked about.
Yeah.
I guess we didn't do Arrival.
Mhm.
Well, we watched Arrival. It was good. I've got problems with it if I think about it too much.
Yeah, it was not as
Sound and logic?
yeah, it wasn't as like tied together. I remember watching it in theaters and it is still cool.
Yeah.
The way that the like time stuff comes in. But then I remember watching it in theaters and being like, it's all coming together, baby. Like it's very satisfying. And then watching it again, and I was like, but hold on. Like, if you think about it too hard in terms of like time travel and like, it's not time travel, but like the time aspects of things and like the loop.
Time is always.
Time is always.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then the stuff with the daughter, I was like, well, I don't actually know if I agree with Amy Adams in this instance.
Yeah.
And that's a personal preference, I guess. Oh no.
Yeah, I think my problem, like, because I have no problem, because, you know, we love Doctor Who.
Mm-hmm.
Stuff goes unresolved in that, and it's like, that doesn't actually logically make sense.
Sure.
It's perfectly fine.
And I love Doctor Who, and I'm fine with that. I think
Yeah.
the problem with Arrival is that it, to me, presented itself as a,
It takes itself so much more seriously
like,
than
hard
Doctor
science.
Yeah, than Doctor Who does.
Yeah. And so then it was just like everything, like, throughout the movie is like, oh no, there's a scientific explanation, we're breaking it down,
Mm-hmm.
we're breaking down linguistics, physics, all of this stuff, and then at the end it's like, you just have to accept it.
Yeah.
Which was weird to me, and like, I don't know if that's supposed to be like just because you know what happens in the future doesn't mean you can really change it, you just have to accept it, and that's why she still went through with what she went through, because you just
Right.
have to accept it, but to me, that is baloney.
Yeah.
You're a free will kind of person?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of like the the predetermined future version of
Yeah.
science fiction. And like this doesn't fully say that it's a predetermined future because it still seems like she chooses everything and like she knows what's going to happen, but she's still like on board with everything. And then
But
like
her being on board with everything makes her a bad person.
it doesn't make her a good partner because like she unlocks time. That's
Spoilers
great.
for Arrival.
For 2016's Arrival. Yeah. She unlocks time through language. Super fun, super cool. But like she gets those flashes of like she knows her daughter is going to die young.
Yeah.
And then she eventually realizes that Jeremy Renner is going to be the father of her child.
Yeah.
What a realization to have.
Yeah.
And then
I'm hoping to have the same one.
someday, yeah. But so like she realizes he's the dad, and then she explains like you see in like a flash forward that she explains to her daughter like, Daddy got mad at me because I told him something that he wasn't ready to hear, but like, so the kid remembers her parents being together, which means she didn't tell Jeremy Renner that their kid was going, like, hey, if we get together, we're going to have a kid and the kid is going to die. Like, wouldn't you want to have informed consent before marrying Amy Adams and knowing that your daughter is going to beef it real young?
Yeah.
That's the part that lost it a little bit for me watching it the second time around. I'm a big fan of the aliens. I like those a lot.
Yeah. I love how the movie looks.
Mm-hmm.
Denis' movies always look great.
Mm-hmm.
The director of photography for Arrival was Bradford Young, who did Selma
Mm-hmm.
and Solo, A Star Wars Story.
Yeah.
I'll say Solo to me was the least visually interesting out of those three because Disney probably has more of a
Yeah, that's true.
holding.
I thought it looked good, though.
No, it still looks good,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a lot in it that I'm like, oh, I can see, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But Arrival just has a very, like, and I was saying this while we were watching, like a classic sci-fi look. Like, there are just expansive wide shots.
Yeah.
Yeah, big open dark rooms. And
Yeah, and like
Yeah.
they're like there's like, oh, this is clearly a nod to 2001.
Mm-hmm. Especially like even in the interior of the spaceship,
Yeah.
then like it's still super wide even
Yes.
though you're inside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like that part was obviously
Mm.
beautiful. It's just it is just the logic and stuff.
The personal relationship parts.
Yeah, at the
Yeah.
very, like, when it all comes together, quote unquote, at the end.
Yeah.
That's when I'm like, kind of lost me a little bit. Like the part where it like really reveals, where it's like, oh, she's been getting visions of the future. It's not
Yeah.
memories of the past.
Yeah.
That's when it lost me. I was just like, I don't know about that.
It's, yeah. And I don't know if it's like, I think a generous way to say it is like, it doesn't, you get to the point of like, you just have to believe that this makes sense because she's fully thinking in that language, and like we the audience haven't learned that language, so it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
But it I don't think that was the intention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's also a part where she has to figure out what to say to someone, but she doesn't know what to say to someone until she's told in the future
Yeah.
to say to him, and then he says it to her in the future, and it's very much the paradoxical
bootstrap paradox.
yeah.
Like where did it come from the first time?
Yeah. And I'm fine with that paradox if it's like there is a first time, but then from that first time it causes it to like be like, oh, but where did the first time come from?
Yeah.
Because we do that with a short film we made.
Mm-hmm.
And like but because this one wasn't showing the first time,
Yeah.
then it was like, it just kind of, I don't know.
It does. It's always to me, it's always a slightly unsatisfying, like, break my brain moment of like,
Yeah.
well, how did this start? And even with like, so the aliens come to Earth because they're like, 1,000 years from now or something, we'll need humanity's help.
Yes.
So we're helping you now so that you will understand us when the time comes.
Yeah.
And that is also like, well, what? I'd love more information. Like, what does that mean? Like, and that's, not going to be covered in this movie, and that's fine. But just the again, that slightly predetermined future thing of like, you've got 1,000 years to figure this out, and you're just like, gotta go to humanity, I guess. Let's do that instead.
There's also a brief scene, and it's sort of right where it starts to lose me, of where they start giving the aliens English subtitles for the audience to read.
Oh, yeah.
And it was just funny to me, and I don't think it was supposed to be funny.
Oh,
because like the alien is talking, and then it's like Abbott has died basically.
Yeah.
But it was just like out of nowhere the subtitles for us to understand it, and it was just funny.
Yeah. It was a weird moment to start doing like a translation thing like that. But then also cuz she like she's on their side of the glass wall cuz they breathe a slightly different oxygen or whatever. Yeah. So her hair is floating, and I think this is what made us think of like whether or not we had talked about this movie already, was like the visual effects for it were kind of goofy, and this is only from 2016 versus when we watched Escape from New York, we were like, that's not bad.
Yeah. Okay, I think that'll do it for today's episode, this week's episode. Follow us on places. Leave questions and comments, and we'll respond to them on our other podcast, the Virtual House Sessions podcast. But for now, we'll see you next week.
Goodbye.
Go on, get